The second segment of the nightly news is brought to you by Labrie Credit Union. Labrie Credit Union. We are not a bank. We are better.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. As protests continue in various Caribbean countries over the possible mandatory vaccinations, the St. Lucia Medical and Dental Association is weighing in on the matter.
This past week has seen multiple incidents of protest action within the region, which has resulted in some form of violence as countries such as Antigua and Barbuda, Barbados, Martinique, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines have all taken to the streets to voice opposition to what they believe are moves by governments to make COVID-19 vaccines mandatory in one way or another. Here in St. Lucia, it begs the question, will the same be done? The president of the St. Lucia Medical and Dental Association, Dr. Merle Clark, has weighed in on whether or not the COVID-19 vaccine should be made mandatory.
Unfortunately, what happened with Prime Minister Ralph Gonzague in St. Vincent, that which should never happen, and we should condemn it in the strongest possible way. And the question becomes, do we as a Medical and Dental Association support mandatory vaccination? It is a tough question because we like citizens to always have the freedom to choose. That's a reality. We live in a democracy and we would like citizens to have the freedom to choose. That being said, are we also infringing on the rights and the freedoms of those who chose to do the responsible thing and get vaccinated? Because when hospitals become overwhelmed, those vaccinated people who may have another pathology would be affected.
Dr. Clark indicated that members of the public need to understand that the risks associated with the vaccine are far less than the risks that come with contracting the virus.
So it's a lot less scary, a population with a high number of COVID cases, if they're vaccinated, compared to those who are not vaccinated, because that is when you have hospitals being overrun. So mandatory vaccination is something that has to be debated. It's a conversation that needs to be had. On a regional level, certainly needs to be had, but one way or the other, we have to do better in terms of vaccinating our population in this part of the world.
She explains that perhaps the manner in which vaccine sensitization is being done should be changed as there continues to be high levels of vaccine hesitancy. Dr. Clark also urged members of the public to keep medical professionals in mind every time that they decide that staying unvaccinated and continuing to live life as normal, even under the new parameters, is the right way to go.
To prevent our healthcare system from being run over, our hospitals from being full, our healthcare workers from being burnt out, we need to get people vaccinated. And one way or the other, we have to find some way to do it effectively. There's a lot of misinformation. There are lots of theories out there, and we need to do a lot more debunking. But St. Lucia, we need to do this in a responsible way. We need to get all our stakeholders together, and perhaps our strategy has not been working, and we need to employ new ones. And we invite anybody who thinks they have a better way to do it to call us at the Medical and Dental Association. 451-8441 is our number, so we could have a discussion as to how to convince people that all of what is being seen on the internet is not necessarily true. Science is such that if there is a problem, then there's a pause and it's investigated, and that has been done with the vaccines.
To date, St. Lucia has recorded over 5,000 cases of COVID-19. 32,810 individuals have received the first dose of the vaccine, and 25,543 have been fully vaccinated. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Genevieve Gonzalez.
Could St. Lucia impose mandatory vaccinations, and if so, would the island see protest action? These are questions being posed by many in society as countries across the region have seen protest action where mandatory vaccines are a topic of discussion. While COVID-19 vaccines remain voluntary in St. Lucia, we look at countries where residents are protesting and what sparked it in the first place.
Countries across the Caribbean region are taking to the streets in protest of what they believe are moves by governments to make COVID-19 vaccines mandatory in one way or another. Countries like Antigua and Barbuda, Barbados, Martinique and St. Vincent and the Grenadines have all had some form of protest action. The protests began in mid-July in Martinique after the French president announced that vaccination would become mandatory for all health workers and urged them to take the jab by September 15th, warning that they could face sanctions for failure to do so. France's health minister was also quoted as saying that non-vaccinated health workers wouldn't receive a salary nor be allowed to work after September 15th. This past week has seen multiple incidents of protest action which have resulted in some form of violence in some countries. A prime example was in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, where Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves suffered a blow to his temple and was flown to Barbados for further medical advice. Vincentians protested changes to their Public Health Act, where the word voluntary was removed in front of immunization, as well as rights given to the chief medical officer with regard to instances where people would be exempt from taking the vaccine. Over in Barbados, close to 2,000 Barbadians and non-nationals marched through Bridgetown on Saturday to send a message to authorities of their opposition to any move to make the COVID-19 vaccines mandatory in that country. At the end of July, Prime Minister Mia Mottley announced that the country's Attorney General had been tasked with preparing a legal opinion to advise on mandatory testing and vaccination, which would be followed by a series of consultations on the way forward. The protesters made it clear that they have the right to choose what goes into their bodies. And in Antigua and Barbuda, residents came out to protest for the third time since the Antiguan government announced its policy, which states that public sector workers must either be vaccinated or take a COVID-19 test every fortnight. The protesters' request to march on Sunday was denied earlier in the week by the Commissioner of Police. However, in a letter, the group, who goes by the name Freedom Fighters for Antigua and Barbuda, said the Commissioner's late response to their request made it all but impossible to peruse the appeal process since the march was scheduled for August 8th. They claimed that no police permission was needed to gather. Riot police arrived at VC Bird Bust in St. John's and attempted to disperse the crowd with tear gas. For the Hot 7 News, Nisha Charles reporting.
After almost 3 months in limbo, popcorn vendor Simon Simple Philip has been reinstated. On Monday, Philip spoke with Hot 7 TV News after months of controversy and rallying to be allowed to vend in Constitution Park.
Popcorn vendor Simon Simple Philip is counting his blessings after his vending spot at Constitution Park has been reinstated. On June 15th, the vendor was given orders to vacate the area which he had been occupying after he took part in a political protest against the previous administration, the United Workers' Party. Philip made claims of victimization, which was cemented by Castries Mayor Peterson Francis. On Monday, Philip says he was given permission to return to his spot and that this time he is back for good.
Richard played his role, the Prime Minister played his role, and the Cabinet Minister. And I thank all those people who really played their role, and I realized that I'm a citizen of this country and I have a right to earn a living. There's like some foreigners who come with nothing and then they still earn something in the country of a black man and who and something.
Simon believes that the involvement of influential figures, the media, and the general public helped him regain the spot where he made his daily bread.
They have given me the strength, and they realize that you cannot deprive somebody of earning a living despite of what political party they do support. And just a lot of people, and they spoke highly about it, and they said it is not fair to victimize me just because that I speak against the former government. This morning I got a lot of vibes from the people around the place and something, and they cheered me and stuff. And I would like to thank the media, 7 News, 7 TV, that they were the first to broadcast me when I was like, when they forced to tell me that I cannot go and live in this country anymore. They did it and stuff. I would like to thank Trisha also. Trisha did play a major role. Yadi, I want to thank this guy.
He explains that there is no bad blood between him and the mayor of Castries, Peterson Francis, and tells Hot 7 that he is hoping to move on from the situation.
Sadly, what I'm thinking there, even on the Friday when I came back there, I had some little issues like to come back and stuff. But I want to give thanks to Richard Frederick, who really stood with me and who kept his word, that he said to me that, Simple, you will be back to earn your living, to think it there. And also my attorney, Thaddeus Antoine, who is fighting a nice battle for me that I can gain something out of it, apart from apart from I doing my popcorn and stuff and things, he have shown me that I told him, but if this government changed and a new government comes in, what will I get? Will I get? He said, it doesn't matter. You'll still get what is due to you. Well, the mayor, he passed there this morning and said, we have our little chat. I said, Mayor, he said, you're happy, you're back. I said, yeah, Mayor. I said, we don't have a problem. But the only issue I was trying to make a mockery was the mayor, it was Sweet Juice was pushing the mayor to do it and something. And Mr. Pierre's secretary upstairs and things. But everything's all right.
Simon says now that he is back and able to continue with his livelihood, he intends on making the best out of the situation. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Genevieve Gonzalez.
You're watching the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. There's more news after the break.
The second segment of the Nightly News was brought to you by Labrie Credit Union. Labrie Credit Union. We are not a bank. We are better.